Welcome back, everybody. This is Eric here with Iraq Veteran 8888. Today we've got another Gun Gripe episode for you. This one's going to be pretty fun. All right, we're going to dive into some fun stuff. I've got Mark here with C&Rsenal. He also does the Anvil series on C&Rsenal, and he's also a gunsmith, does lots of excellent restoration work as well as repair work. And we thought that it would be really fun to elaborate in this Gun Gripe about the difference between restoration and conservation. And then also on the other end, you've got the other evil vein of Bubbarizing. All right, now we're talking collectible guns and where you come to the decision-making process. When do you restore something? When do you simply conserve something? And then when do you want to bubba it? Or do you want to bubba it?
Or can you bubba it?
Or can
do you
you
even have the tools to do it with?
Yeah.
Some folks that have known me know that I have a real problem with the word patina. What is patina? Let me dig that apart. I think patina is what happens when nobody takes care of something and then somebody wants that to be relevant. They want to collect broken, oxidized, rusted garbage. Well, if you want to do that, that's fine. I personally have a problem with that. I think we should do the maintenance. We need to stop things from rusting out and destroying themselves so that they're available for future generations.
Sure.
Now, do you take a 100% gun and grind it down because you want to see that 101% finish? Not what we're talking about. Do we have a problem with the fact that if you look at this, well, it used to be a Mosin, now it's kind of a veggie bread and milk and cheese, a bean and meat, a fruit. Don't have a problem with that either, because there comes a point in time when that's actually not an inappropriate thing to do.
Kind of cool.
It's more than kind of cool. I got to shoot it, and it's pretty neat. Now, do you take a Tsarist marked, unimport marked weapon that you know fully flipping well was carried by one of the Imperial Guards and do that? No. But
some people have.
but do you take this beautiful weapon that was made, what, 1848?
1847.
Right. Should you stop this from rusting? Yeah. That
Actually,
orange
it's 1857.
1857. That orange ooze that's coming out from underneath that barrel band is not patina. It's a lack of maintenance. I got an issue with that. So what do we do with this weapon to continue to enjoy it? I'm going to make them a new breech block. That's going to be pretty cool. So we can continue to shoot it and enjoy it. The bore is nice. Should we do that? Yes. The stock on this gun, there's a knot there, and that knot's trying to unwind. We're going to check that off. So that in 100 years, some other ugly gunsmith is sitting here talking to you about doing woodwork and metalwork on a gun that was made in the way back 1800s, right?
Now, this is a really, really cool piece of small arms history. And this is probably one of the most interesting dang guns that I own personally. And I want to see it be able to be enjoyed for future generations. And I want, one day when I pass this gun down to somebody, I want them to be able to enjoy it too. And, there is a relevant point where it becomes conservation of the item and making sure that it can continue on versus a restoration. We're not trying to restore it. All we're trying to do is just stop stop time from taking this thing.
You cannot wind the time back. The gun was only new once. Yeah. All we can do, like, let's say, for instance,
pitting.
Oh yeah, but let's move up here for a second and look at, say, this Mosin. Ignore the fact that this particular Mosin happens to actually be a carbine on purpose. All right, this Mosin has been beat up, destroyed. It has there is nothing about this Mosin other than the fact that it's a Mosin, and it's been said before. Well, because they cost $50 5 years ago, they're all worthless. They're not. But if we look at this weapon, this thing has had a lot of stuff. The stock has been hammered on. The original finish is gone. It's white where it should be blue. That's a classic candidate to wind that back up and do some maintenance on it and get it back nice again so that it doesn't continue to deteriorate.
But to be fair, it is an all-matching unit, which for a Type 53 to find them in all-matching configurations is kind of hard. I mean, they were commonly mismatched. So from a, dare I say, collectible point of view. I mean, there's probably collectors that would scoff at the fact, oh, you call that a collectible? I call it a piece of tinder that you throw in a pile. But when you understand what you're looking at and you know that, like, the woods that these things were made of, these were, I'm trying to think of of course I can't think of it now.
Poplar?
But No, it's the type of wood
birch?
that the Type 53s were made out of was a jungle native species of wood that was actually more suited to jungle environment.
Had no clue.
Yeah, so this wood is not like Arctic birch or anything like that.
So
It's
do
a
your research.
completely different species of wood. So it's not actually uncommon for it to get this kind of modding color and to have some character to it. That's normal for this type of gun.
So before you would refinish it, and I'm never advocating sanding all the character off of it.
Yeah.
Do your research, know what you got. Weapons in general, for every handgun there's 10 rifles, and for every rifle there's 10 shotguns. So let's say we're talking about a shotgun, all right? Unless a shotgun is pristine and scarce as hen's teeth, it's worth what it's worth as a shotgun. Period. Parker guys, sorry to hit you with that, but you know, that 5% Parker you got, maybe you ought to think about making it not rust, and maybe you ought to think about rebluing it, maybe having it recolor cased.
You know, I've seen some Parkers that are all over the place in terms of price.
Right.
I've seen some on the dog end of the spectrum, super cheap,
Right.
and you see some where people are commanding some, severe money for some of these older Parkers. And I know we did a video before that he and I spoke about earlier, the condition is king.
Right.
What we talked about in that particular video is more specifically when you're acquiring a piece, what to look for in terms of condition, like should you pay that premium if you're trying to find a collectible piece?
Do some research.
Yeah, where this video comes more into, okay, you've got a piece, now do you restore it, do you conserve it, and what are the differences between those two?
Always conserve it first, and then make the decision whether or not you want to go further.
Yeah.
That decision is entirely up to you. But the
It's your
first
gun.
step, so you're gone, but the first step is definitely to check off oxidation, check off wood cracking, slowly leach oil out of wood. Do that no matter what. And then it's entirely up to you after you've done the research whether or not you want to press on.
Sure.
But
Infields are really bad about that.
Right.
I've seen so many infield rifles with that badly oil-soaked wood, and you'll commonly see the stocks real rotted where they sit, muzzle up, and that wood will leach down, or the oil will leach down in the wood, and you get that oil soak. And those are all things that just with experience, you'll tend to weed those things out and identify them.
But the big part that we need to get everyone over, and we now have the internet at our disposal to be able to disseminate this information.
Some hate that fact.
We've got to stop. Yeah, I wonder what the price of Bubba Moses is going to go to now, right?
And we'll see.
The major point about it is we now have a way to disseminate the information to stop these things from decaying. Because I'm going to tell you what, a lot of these guns are just fading away to nothing. In closets, they're fading away.
Languishing away.
Languishing, yes, with no ammunition. What will we do? Anyway, I'm the Chief Corrosion Officer of the Small Arms Humane Society. I don't know if I managed to tell you that or not, but
No, you have.
do the maintenance. That's all I can implore. Do it.
Yep. And you mentioned that term deferred maintenance. I mean, when someone buys a milsurp, when you buy an older firearm, it's generally going to be, in a lot of cases, especially if it's a mass-produced or widely available firearm, let's just use a 9130 Mosin, for example. You are talking about a firearm that has been usually in some form of turned-in condition. They've been sold off as government surplus, and the government has sold them to the lowest bidder, and then the importer is going to turn around. They're trying to turn a bit of a profit. They didn't pay a lot for them, so in a lot of cases, especially in the earlier days, they would sell them off for as cheap as they possibly could just to turn a quick profit. And there's always that sort of, the idea of deferred maintenance is, yeah, you are basically buying an item that's been used, sometimes abused, turned in, and sold off as scrap, basically. And you have to find some way to turn that into something that's viable for you. Now, that's going to be different for different people. Some people want to take an old Mosin and chop it up, make a cool shooter out of it. This gun is a parts gun. It's got a mismatched everything on it. It was just literally, it wasn't a gun to begin with. I just took a bunch of random parts and assembled this and SBR'd it and made a cool little shooter. Whereby, you know, some people may take an all-matching, really, really nice example and not know what they have, not understand what they have, and then basically ruin it.
Do your research.
Yeah, do your research, guys.
Then do the maintenance.
Yep.
But
That's
we
important.
definitely got to do it. It's becoming chronic now. The number of firearms that have come through my shop that while they may look good, they are a disaster. And look at it on the bright side. It's a machine. You're going to learn a few things about machines. You're going to understand how to take this gun all the way apart when you're done. Yeah. And then you'll give it back to me in a bag to put it back together again. Whatever. At least you were trying. And that's the important part.
I agree. I think that first and foremost, when you get into surplus, and this video is mainly, we're mainly discussing surplus here, because normally when you find an older firearm is kind of languishing away in terms of condition, or you find it in, an older relative's home, or someone had it and it just sat around, a lot of times that's where you're going to run into situations where, okay, this gun's got maybe a layer of rust on it, or it's got some corrosion, or the bore is a little rotted out because it wasn't properly cleaned after use with like corrosive ammunition or something. Any number of different things, like you said, lack of deferred maintenance essentially. That's when you're going to have to decide, okay, what point am I at here? A complete restoration, conservation. Now conservation, you mentioned conserve first. Now restoration. Now when someone says the word restoration, now that's a completely different bag of tricks there, in my opinion. Now, it's one thing to like maybe, bleach a stock or steam a stock, a dent out of a stock, or maybe try to, put a little coat of tung oil on a stock, or maybe take some stock conditioner, stock wax, and try to just preserve what's there, preserve the existing finish. But when you're talking complete, full-on, full-bore restoration, a lot of people may not completely understand what that's really involved. I mean, that's an involved thing to do.
You got to do your research and make sure that you understand what you're biting off. But the basic conservation steps, we've covered a few things on some of the videos that we've shot on me on how to do one of these.
Make sure you check out the Anvil series over on C&Rsenal, by the way.
We've done stuff about how to totally conserve one of these weapons with under $25 worth of hardware.
Sure.
It's not particularly expensive, and if you're a steward of a piece of history, do the maintenance. I don't know what else to say.
That's a good point. When it comes to restoration, also understanding the restoration techniques or the original techniques that would have been used to put the original finish on the gun in the first place. Mm-hmm. So you wouldn't take a gun that originally wasn't hot blued and hot blue it when the original bluing was a combination of fire blue and rust blue.
And then you get to go down the history rabbit hole with us.
Exactly.
Because now you're going to find something out about why varnishes suck, and why if Acraglass and polyurethane was available in the 1850s, they would be standard firearms finishes. But that's a different rant for another day.
That's right. Guys, thanks for tuning in for today's Gun Gripe. We really appreciate all of the support from all of you. Y'all have been great. Hopefully this allowed some of you to kind of glean a little bit of information from a guy like Mark, who's very knowledgeable about restoration. He does a ton of work on all different kinds of guns, and he does work on a lot of the heavier stuff too, so machine guns and whatnot, which require a certain finesse.
Level of craziness?
And a level of craziness in order to kind of go, all right, well, I'm about to hit this, but he does a lot of great stuff, and he's a very important part of C&Rsenal, and they've been down filming with us, and we've had a lot of fun doing some really fun machine gun videos, as well as some gun gripe material that you're going to be seeing coming down the pipeline. But thank you guys so much for the support. Thanks for watching. Make sure you go over there and subscribe to those guys at C&Rsenal. And if you consume their content, which takes them a lot of effort to put together, make sure that you go over to Patreon, throw them a buck for their time, because they really, I've seen on the back end the kind of work that they put into this stuff, loading the ammo, fixing the guns, diagnosing problems. It is a very, very although I love field labor, a very labor-intensive process for them to put these videos together. So when you guys support folks like us on Patreon, you're supporting our ability to share what we love with the rest of the world, and we thank all of you for that. Thanks for watching today's video. Mark, thanks for hanging out with us.
Thanks, Eric.
All right,
pleasure.
Pal. And we got much more on the way. Make sure you tune in. We'll see you all next time. Enjoy your day. And until we see you again, later.
Hoorah.